I'm going to put myself in the hypothetical position of advising two very different people in very different circumstances after June the 23rd. The first is a Mr. Boris Johnson, who some 3 weeks after June the 23rd, and after he has won the referendum, finds himself hoisted into number 10. And he will need some advice at that point, I can tell you, that's for sure. First of all, Boris is going to say to me, well, I didn't really mean getting out of Europe. Can I go back and have another talk with Europe about a better deal than Cameron's done? I'd have to tell him that Merkel and others will say, take a jump. He'd then say, well, we really like the single market. It's really a good idea. We can trade all our stuff. What we don't like about it is little things like the budget, the regulations, and the incoming responsibilities of it, and obviously free movement of labour. And again, Mrs. Merkel is going to say, well, Boris, you have to have it one way or the other. If you're in the single market, you have to take these things on. If you take that position, I'm afraid that's not for you. Well, says Boris, what about Norway? Norway seems to be outside the European Union. It seems to be doing all right. Ah, yes, says Mrs. Merkel, but Norway, unfortunately, pays into the budget, unfortunately allows migrants to roam all over the place, and unfortunately signs up to all the regulations of the single market, and actually she doesn't have anything to do with it because she's not a member, doesn't have any influence of it. So Boris looks a bit sad and he said, well, I'm out then. I'm out of the single market, and I now have to start trading, doing negotiating with 43 different groups of countries which I'm signed into through the European Union at the present time. That will probably take me about 10 years to do, but never mind, we'll work our way through it. And then Boris said, and of course we're going to save in the budget. I've heard the budget figure said already, 350 million quid. No, Boris, I'm sorry, you're not going to say 350 million quid, because 250 million of that comes back to us anyway, through the budget rebate, through our farmers. I'm a farmer, and although I disapprove of what happens within Europe, I can see that farmers will be slightly anxious if they're outside Europe. But let's say Boris honours his commitment and tells the Treasury they've got to continue to subsidise the farmers. And finally, there's the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the future. The rebate, the farmers and universities. Of course, the universities get a lot of money from Europe. That money is either going to be not given to the universities, or Boris is going to have to find it in the Treasury. So the 350 million, which you mentioned, if you heard, has now got down to about 150 million. Big itself, I don't disagree with that. Next subject. Boris, Scotland, alas, has voted to stay in the European Union by 70-30. You've got an overall majority of 51-49. Well done, Boris. What are you going to do about Scotland? Oh, I haven't thought about that. Well, there are two things I can do with Scotland. I can either try and buy them out, which I've been doing for years at rate. Successive governments have been paying Scotland through the nose. That's why the Scots don't want full independence. They want enough leverage on the Treasury to make sure they get plenty of money, and the north of England suffers from that. So Boris said, well, I try and buy them out. Oh, Boris, you're going to have trouble in the north of England if you do that. So therefore I say, well, let them have independence. You're not finished there, Boris. The bloody Northern Irish, they've gone and voted against Europe as well, voted for Europe as well. And they have slightly serious problems because they have a land border with another European country. You'll have to put the border barriers back up. Back up? So we tried to take a Good Friday agreement, we took them all down. You have to put it back up, Boris, and you're going to have to face the consequences that the Irish are not, I have to declare an interest, I'm Irish, the Irish are not going to take very kindly to being cut out of the UK trade by these barriers. So you're going to have to work one out there. So Boris is looking pretty worried at this stage. Then I throw in another, and by the way, there's Gibraltar. Gibraltar? And the Falkland Islands. The Falkland Islands? They're against us coming out of Europe too, because I don't trust you, Boris, to look after them the way the Europeans do. I don't ask me why Gibraltar and the Falkland Islands do, but they do. They do like Europe very strongly. We're a long way away from them, mind you. And then we've got a million expatriates wandering around Europe saying, Boris, what are you going to do about my pension? What are you going to do about my situation? These bloody French are going to roll over me. They don't like me anymore. Boris says, I have to think about that too. And then I'm going to ring a few big car companies for you, Boris. I'm going to ring Nissan here in Durham. I'm going to ring Ford down in Swansea. I'm going to ring Peugeot in the Midlands. I'm going to ring Jaguar and say, what's this going to do? And I know what's going to say. Nissan are going to say, well, that's very interesting. We have factories in France, and we're not going to shut the factory here. But the new investment, really, we're not going to be stupid enough to put it here. You're going to put up tariff barriers to take us into the main part of the European market. Of course we're not. So one by one, even Jaguar Land Rover, a great British company, are already building factories in the Czech Republic. So they're protecting themselves against us doing something silly, Boris. So Boris was getting very anxious at this stage. Finally, we get up to the situation of a bonfire of regulation. I hear this frequently, a bonfire of regulation. Well, Boris, most of those regulations you talk about relate to the single market. Most of them were inspired by Mrs. Thatcher, no less, who said she wanted the single market and she wanted the regulation because she didn't trust the southern Europeans from cheating. And the regulation was there to stop cheating. And a lot of the regulation to do with consumers. So, Boris, I'm afraid, if you come out and entirely get rid of them, you've got to spend another 10 years writing up these regulations in English law. I know there's going to be plenty of jobs for politicians in Westminster while this is all going on. Poor old Boris then, at this stage, goes to bed with his hot cocoa and he reflects on his position. He's destabilised the economy, he's made the Celts unhappy, he's relocated businesses all over Europe, he's got migrant workers, people responsible for relying on migrant work, like farmers, like the NHS, we've got them up in arms because they're going to be short of workers. He's got still got to talk to these bloody Europeans about the environment, about security and climate change, very painful. And as Boris goes to sleep, he said, well, maybe I should have stuck to my original position after all, which was that he was in favour of Europe. Now, the second one, much easier, is a chap called David Cameron. He has won the referendum on June the 23rd, and this is on June the 24th. First of all, the markets, unlike Boris, who saw the pound collapse by 20%, a French economist this week said that, not me, Cameron finds that the pound will have strengthened. There will be great relief all around, the markets will be calm. So that gives him time to think about it. He can then think about what he's going to do. He's going to re-engage in a positive way with Europe, the way successive British governments have failed to do over the last 40 years. So he's going to say, I want a better single market. I want a deeper single market, including financial services, so that Britain gets more out of it. I want better financial regulation right across Europe, whether in the Eurozone, outside the Eurozone. We want it across the world, but we start with Europe, and we're working on that at the moment. I want a better energy policy, where we share our energy resources right across Europe. I want a more integrated, positive, constructive foreign policy by the European countries towards the Middle East. It isn't bad at the moment, could be a lot stronger. I want to deal with the climate change issue properly, and I do that with my support in Europe. I want a real research base for universities to deal with the huge technological change that's going to take place in the world in the next 30 or 40 years. That's better done at any university does by collaboration in as wide a way as we possibly can do. And I want to support the Eurozone because it's important for me, as it is for them, that it thrives and works through. Britain is hugely important to Europe. We are the second largest economy. We have a global financial week which is important to Europe. We are strong in defence and security, again important issues for Europe. We have the best universities in Europe. We have a free trade attitude which is an example to Europe, and Europe benefits because we're there. We have a long history of democracy and social justice, and above all else, Europe has given us 70 years of peace in Western Europe after 1,000 years of war. I beg to oppose the motion.